have a topic that I would like to bring up with you. And it's rather a broad topic, but it's something that maybe others can relate to. I wanted to find out your views on suffering, human suffering, which, as far as I know, everyone experiences. And does it serve a useful purpose? This is a topic which it keeps coming up for me because I experience it off and on. I wonder, what's the purpose of it? Maybe it's part of the getting over identification with, being a person and identification with thinking and all of that. Maybe that's just a necessary part of it, but I'm not sure. Maybe there are people who don't experience it. I have no idea. Do you feel that there is a process? For instance, as we become more aware that there is a process by which we suffer off and on as we let go of all these different attachments that we have.
When one speaks of a process, one is really speaking about time. Process suggests a beginning, an unfoldment of the process, and at some point, an end. And in satsang, I am more inclined to really remove time altogether, just sweeping away the past and sweeping away the future. So being left with this simple moment, this eternal here and now, just now, where there is no time, where there's no time, there's no mind. Thinking itself is a process, the mind stream, suggesting an unfolding story that is about me, I, whoever you take or whatever you take yourself to be, the story of that personal one. The one that has a birth and a lifetime, the process, and death, the end. So you ask about a process and you ask about suffering. You ask if there's a purpose of suffering. So it seems that for most of us, there was a suffering long ago that somehow served as an impetus to seek, a suffering that was the fuel of seeking something that was free of suffering. So maybe for all of us here, that suffering has been one of the greatest gifts that we've been given because it set us on a spiritual search. The spiritual search is really the story of that separate human being trying to find teachers and teachings and practices, ways to engage with life that hold forth the possibility of eliminating that suffering. A lot of the suffering that we're speaking of right now, that suffering that was that fire, that original fire that moved us on our spiritual search. In a way, I speak of that as needless suffering. It's suffering that is born out of believing the story of the mind stream as being the gospel truth rather than pure fiction. It's the suffering that coincides with that story of the unworthy one. I speak of that as unnecessary suffering and make a distinction between unnecessary suffering and the suffering that is simply inherent in and unavoidable and inevitable for human beings who are appearing to live in a bardo with their a bardo of impermanence, where everything comes and goes, everything that is cherished is lost, everything we hold on to finally is let go of. And this is how that suffering is inevitable for all human beings. So I'm speaking about the distinction between unnecessary suffering and the inevitable suffering. So now we have found ourselves on a spiritual path. We're finding teachers and we're finding practices and we're engaged with that practice. It's usually some form of meditation. And the practice holds forth, or the teacher holds forth, the promise perhaps of engaging with that practice over time, and in time you will attain that which you originally hoped to when you set upon the path so long ago. So most practices are in many ways future oriented. They have to do with what might be attained through some practice over time. And my master's teaching really is an altogether different sort of thing. It's only speaking to what is true now, what is true prior to what is true, free of what is prior, free of what's prior to this moment, and free of what comes after this moment. This teaching, this immediacy of seeing directly what it is that you are in truth, a distinction being made, what you're seeing or realizing, what you are in truth rather than what you appear to be. So the master was always making that distinction and always pointing to not the illusory self that comes and goes, not that unworthy one that appears in that mind stream, but to something that is free of coming and going. Something that is prior to time, prior to thought. So the master would make this distinction between that which appears, the objects that appear, and the subject, that which the objects appear in, the seeing. And he would point one back to the seeing. First, perhaps, to the seer. So these distinction makings that are part of the pointings that would occur so often in satsang were in behalf of the person who is sitting at the master's feet, being asked by the master to look now, look at what is aware of the very words that I am speaking here and now, to look now. Don't look at what's appearing in the awareness, but take your attention and turn it back to where awareness itself arises from. So in usual spiritual practices, attention is on the object of meditation, or attention is on a mantra that's repeated. Here, attention is, or what's requested is attention to come back to itself, to be aware of itself, and to rest in itself. It's a teaching of self-realization, the realization of one's true self as opposed to one's illusory self. By true self, I'm meaning one's Buddha nature. So now, sitting at the master's feet, he is pointing to awareness and asking, look into that awareness. Look to where the awareness arises from, as I just said. You would sometimes say, call that the substratum. So now we've left suffering long ago. Here we are in Lucknow, we're in Hardwar, we're at the master's feet in Satsang, and he is pointing and asking, look now, look and see now. The immediacy of this teaching that had only to do with this moment called here and now. It had nothing to do with what the master sometimes would speak of as the graveyard of the past or the future, but simply this now, this simple moment here and now. So people would get mesmerized by the master's finger that's pointing to the moon, and would have a great deal of difficulty taking one's attention from the master's finger to look and see where the master is pointing to, where he's asking where we look now. So in this eternal moment, we see that anything can arise and does. Thought, emotional states, psychological states, spiritual states, arising, displaying, and disappearing. Everything is coming and going, except for that which remains. In the process of a lifetime and a process of time, there is this phenomena we speak of as aging. What is it? What is it that remains unchanged and itself does not age? What is it that at age 5 years old and 10 years old and 25 years old and 70, what is it that as the body is aging in time, this that I'm speaking of is not aging or changing at all? What is it that remains unchanging? Well, as it turns out, one, through some combination of grace and looking, one sees that it's this present awareness in which these words are displaying in right here and now is that which is already always is free of coming and free of going and forever unchanged and unchanging. One comes to realize I am this awareness. It's not that I am some human being who possesses awareness like some object in the way that this hand is possessing this lingam. There isn't a separate individual who is the subject possessing awareness, the object. You are the subject, awareness, and the object, this body mind, the one that we keep identifying as me, the one that has that story that we've heard 10 million times, this story of our personal unworthiness, filled with all of its hopes and strivings, that we are not that one, that one, that separate individual, that personal one is only found within the confines of the thought stream. Thoughts are objects like everything else, like this striker, these glasses, this pillow, all objects appearing in awareness. So in a nutshell, that is the totality of the Master's teachings. That's simple. Look, and you shall see. So sometimes, for some, these teachings were too simple. It couldn't be too simple. The spiritual path and the spiritual attainment must require great effort by that supposed individual over a great period of time, be it a lifetime or many lifetimes. So the search, when one comes to see doubtlessly that one's true nature, one's Buddha nature, is is consciousness. Another word for awareness is consciousness, awareness. Presence too, already always is, forever unchanging, indescribable. That our Buddha nature, consciousness, presence, your Buddha nature that has a name, and this character's Buddha nature has a name, Hanuman. It's the same Buddha nature. There's not two of us really. There is this we speak of it as one. It's okay. There is just this consciousness presence. So, I mean, that is when people hear these words, the teachings of non-duality, that is one way of speaking about what it is that's non-dual. What is it that's not two? Well, your own nature. Because your own nature and my own nature are the very same. And then there seems to be a distinction, a separation between the human aspect of the human being and the being aspect of the human being. The human aspect being the relative nature and the being aspect being of the absolute nature. And often it feels separate, as if somehow we're not walking the talk of our realization. So there's an impulse for one whose love of truth is so strong. There is this desire for that dissonance to become into alignment. Our human aspect and our absolute self, our Buddha nature. We come to see that the best version of our humanity is our innate capacity to be this vehicle of love and compassion. And when there's nothing obscuring our love and compassion, when it's all in alignment, it's another way again of speaking about non-dual. There's no separation. So suffering often, needless suffering, often is a kind of grace that reminds us that somehow we're out of alignment. And that out of alignmentness is being experienced as needless suffering. And to set that aright is to remove anything that's obscuring the free flow of love and compassion. So suffering that you were asked about long ago now is a kind of grace. That's a kind of, it's a wake-up call. It's a clang that doesn't want to clang, it wants to be. So we have the capacity to remove that which obscures the free flow of love and compassion and simply come back to rest as our true self. Awareness, presence. In the olden days, they spoke of it as Ananda, Sat Chit Ananda. I don't think Ananda was translated correctly. It was translated as bliss, our true nature. I would say it's much more of the nature of contentment. Contentment meaning that we are at ease, at peace, at rest with things as they are. Nothing need change, nothing need be different. So some of what I'm saying is the master's teachings, the master's absolute teachings, and then somehow something got added on, if you will. I haven't really spoken of this, and that added on is this getting into alignment, our humanity and our absolute nature, where we see that our humanity is our divinity. Our humanity is our divinity. And we've come to the end of seeking. We've now come to realize that which we are is consciousness or awareness, same thing. Presence, contentment. And that we so this is really important, what I'm about to say. So we've come to the end of this search. We've come to realize, recognize our true nature. But as it turns out, while we could see doubtlessly that our true nature is consciousness, consciousness remains a mystery. It's indescribable. It's unknowable. It's almost as if there is another awakening to that reality, to that fact. Consciousness remains a mystery on the one hand, but it is that which we are most familiar with. The master would say closer than your own breath, closer than the nose on your face. That consciousness that you are is. So basically there's hundreds of different ways of saying the same thing. This same thing. That which I am is consciousness itself, presence itself, contentment itself. That human part, the divine aspect that is our humanity, when it is felt as humble, that humility itself feels as if we're back in alignment. That any arrogance we experience is a recognition we are out of alignment and back in service to that illusory ego. By ego, I mean the illusory one that appears in the thought stream, called me and mine. So we are beings, as it turns out, of great love and great compassion and great wisdom and great kindness. So this is the nature of our absolute self and the nature of our ordinary, everyday human. It's the best version of that human. That one that is forgiving. That one that aspires towards humility. So first things first, I'm fond of saying, first things first is realize that which you are in truth. If you're going to embark on a meditation practice, it only makes good, common, reasonable sense to find out who is the meditator. If there is one, find this out. And the thing about the Master's teachings, one of the things that I love so much, so to speak. I don't know how to say that better than I love the fact that what the master was saying was not to be believed. It was to be confirmed by your own direct seeing. Hence, he would not really plead, but but what's the word? Ask again and again. Look now. Look now. See that which I am saying is true by your own confirmation that comes from direct seeing. It's so utterly simple. It's unbelievable.